Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So guys, coming up today, and forgive me, my throat is congested. It feels like I'm coming down with something. I don't feel all that great. But nevertheless, I have Elizabeth Voss coming on this evening and Eric Ryberg. Elizabeth Voss, we're going to talk about Julian Assange, and Ryberg, we're going to talk about, he's running for Secretary of State in the Green Party in California. So both of those interviews should be really good. Yesterday, there was the harrowing tale of the brave IDF as they gassed a baby to death who was sleeping dangerously in his tent. Associated with this baby dying, there was also another 6 other kids, or you can say 6 kids, including this baby who was dangerously sleeping, in addition to 58 other people who were snuffed out, rubbed off the face of the earth. 2,000 or over 2,000 people were injured, Palestinians, in this particular conflict. And everyone calls it a conflict as if they're 2 equal sides. I mean, ultimately, you have one side that's opening fire into an unarmed group of protesters. Call it what it is. It's a massacre. It's not a conflict. It's not 2 sides warring and fighting with one another. It is one side with snipers, sniper weapons, and nuclear bombs with billions of dollars to back it up from the United States, opening fire into dirt, poor people who are being militarily occupied in an open-air ghetto. Call it what it is. One newspaper after the next has called this a clash. One after the next, one after the next, one after the next. It is hard. It's as if they've all picked up on this particular line of a clash because they didn't necessarily want to just say, yeah, they're murdering people in mass. This is a massacre. They're murdering people in mass. The Israeli Defense Force is bravely murdering unarmed protesters, some of which are kids, one of which, at the very least that we know of, is a baby. This right here. This kid. Look how dangerous this kid is. Dangerous fucking baby. Israel had to snuff it out because, you know, it was Palestinian. My point in this, and I know this is a round way to make a point, but there is no such thing as international law. And the reason why I'm saying that, if there was such thing as international law, stuff like this wouldn't happen without a consequence. You have to ask yourself, what is really the point of law? I mean, the whole point of law is not necessarily to completely stop a behavior. Law is just something that's written down. I've made the point before that laws, morality, country, none of those things exist. Money, currency, none of this stuff exists. Those things are just mental conceptions. You can make an argument that a mental conception exists, okay. But that's a different conversation. I'm saying that's not something you can really put your hands on. If all the people on this planet vanish, then the concept of law will go right along with it. The concept of morality, money, all those things will go right along with it. But in this very specific case, assume for the moment that a consciousness is built into the process, meaning that, yeah, we're talking about from a standpoint of human conception, human beings. Even still, I would make the point that international law doesn't exist. International law is purely the fig leaf that other governments or larger governments or more powerful governments use to control and cajole smaller governments. It's the way they use to try to keep a certain amount of order while allowing themselves to do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want because what are the smaller governments going to do? What is the saying? The weak bear what they must, the strong do as they may, something to that effect. This is what we see around the globe. Ultimately, Israel has come out and literally murdered en masse. There's no consequence. There was no consequence when they did it a few weeks ago. There was no consequence when they invaded Gaza, murdering over 2,000, 80% of which being civilians. So I say killing over 2,000, 80% of which are civilians. They always use the fig leaf of Hamas. Hamas, the ubiquitous Hamas. Hamas is everywhere. Hamas is hiding behind cars. Hamas is hiding under your pillow, under your bed. It's like the boogeyman or something. But they use this in the same way that the United States used terrorists in order to go in these various countries, or the same way that Turkey tried to come up with their thing saying they can use Al-Qaeda to come up with a framework in order to create a pretext to attack in Syria. It's pretext. It allows them to behave in the way that they behave. Now, what I'm getting at here is the International Criminal Court says, hey, we're paying attention to you, but so what? So what if you're paying attention if you never do anything? There's never a situation where you do anything when these massacres take place. They are torturing kids in these Israeli prisons. You have this stateless region of the world where they continuously steal more and more land under this religious maniac idea of Zionism, that they somehow own this land or belong to this land. This stuff is nonsense. We don't live in a religious society. This is meaning you can't set up this idea of I belong to this based on some religious pretext that other people are going to accept. Nonsense. I don't accept that shit at all. But it looks to me as if you're murdering protesters who don't have any weapons. Now, you may say they have a rock. Okay, fair enough. I grant you they may have a rock. You may say they're burning tires. I grant you they may be burning tires. But at the end of the day, you have guns. You have nuclear weapons. You have billions of dollars. You have, all sorts of missiles and everything else. And clearly you have snipers, because those snipers have been shooting into unarmed protesters. If there was a such thing as international law, that would not be allowed. If there was a such thing as international law, there would be a consequence for that. If there was a such thing as international law, Israel would not be able to do that with impunity, knowing full well that they will be able to do it again in a few months, maybe even tomorrow. It's very possible that these protests haven't finished. If anything, these protests may just be getting started. And it's also very possible that the 58 people that have been murdered by the Israeli military may just be the beginning of the number of people that the Israeli military are going to end up murdering in total. What was it, a few weeks ago where they killed, 20-something or something to that effect? No consequence. The Western media barely even batted an eye, barely even picked it up. And now with the so repugnant and atrocious what the Israeli military is out there doing, juxtaposed against this thing of these guys saying, hey, yeah, that's great. The embassy of the United States has moved into a territory that we're militarily occupying that doesn't belong to us and is not ours by international law. And then we have that thing of international law again. Meaning, if that existed, then you wouldn't be able to do that. I'm making the point that if international law really existed, there's a host of things that wouldn't be able to take place that are currently taking place. Murders, massacres, stealing of land. And that's just from the Israeli standpoint. That hasn't even gotten to the Americas. It hasn't even gotten to America. This is atrocious. This is repugnant. And it's even more so that we're supporting it and that Donald Trump is doing this. Even more so that Obama, Clinton, and Bush have all said they were going to move that embassy. Meaning it's not just Trump. Chuck Schumer is out there chest thumping saying that this is a great day for Donald Trump, or this is a great day for Jerusalem, as if he doesn't necessarily understand his obligations to America and not to Israel. I think a lot of these people are misunderstanding their obligations, supposedly, to this country. I'll end it at this. I don't want this one to go long, and we've gone 8 minutes. I'm just making this very specific point because I don't want to go too far off the weeds. International law does not exist. International law is only there for stronger countries to use to club other countries over the head on. Anytime they want to bypass that, they bypass it. The other countries may wring their hands, they may complain, they may bitch, they may moan, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the military force to back up the fact that it's law, then nothing changes. Nothing takes place. Which means that if the United States is on your side on this, nothing takes place. If this was a podunk African nation, they would have bombed that country yesterday. They would have bombed that country yesterday. If this was Iran, they would have bombed that country yesterday. The idea that this flies is purely because it's Israel and purely because it's friends of the United States. You've heard me say before that unequal justice is not justice. It doesn't exist that way. The idea that you're going to look at one country and say, oh my God, that country is horrible. That country is horrible. Look at what that country is doing. And then Israel is literally murdering people in mass, but they get a pass. It's not murder. It's not a massacre. It's a clash. It's amazing. Must be nice having the media on your side when you're friends with the United States. Must be nice. I'll end it here. International law existed, that stuff wouldn't happen. Or at the very least, there will be a consequence if it did. All right, guys.